welcome to the video, and today we're going to be going over a full in-depth guide of the shotgun ammo type. So we will be going over the Mozambique first, Peacekeeper, EVA 8, and then I will actually throw the Mastiff in there, since even though it is not shotgun ammo, it is still a shotgun, and we're doing a full guide on exactly how to use each one of these weapons, when you should be using each one of these weapons, and what attachments you should be running on each one of these weapons. So we're going to be going left to right. So starting off with the Mozambique. The Mozambique, fully kitted, honestly, is not that bad of a weapon. Now hear me out here. I feel like it has such a bad rep because of the fact that you get it off spawn, right? But if you have the hammer points on it, it does a ton of damage. So as you can see here, you know, it does 45, 45, and that's really bad, obviously. Because this is probably one of the worst guns you can get off spawn. As you can see, there's 3 rounds, or there's 3 shells in a mag, which is really, really low, and 45 damage is not exactly glamorous, and that's even if you hit every single shot. However, where it gets interesting is with the hammer points. I'm not sure if you guys realize this or not. Let me try to... Okay, so 80 damage right there. 125. And I think I've seen it hit 126 just a little bit ago. So this thing does a ton of damage. It really, really does chunk opponents. I'll try to get, yeah, 126. I think I've seen 134, 136 as well. So the damage is really, really ridiculous, and you could easily one-shot people with it if you shred the shield. So, you know, the combo is to shred the shield and then hit them with the Mozambique, and that's the best way of using it. Now, another thing is, you know, say you get him like... We'll get him a little bit more weak. 30, yeah. Okay, so he's at like, that's basically like almost 150 health. We'll say that's like 135. The fact that the fire rate is actually pretty high on this weapon, I could probably kill him very, very easily with these 3 shots. Yeah, it only took 2. You know, and honestly, I think I could probably, yeah. I mean, the damage is pretty good on it. It just has such a bad rep, so overall players don't use it. I think, let me see. I really, yeah, 149 right there. As you can see, that's absurd. I think, yeah. So a person at full shield, full health, can almost get taken out with 3 body shots to the Mozambique. So that just shows you that the damage is pretty crazy. But I wouldn't use this as like an aggressor weapon. You know, you have to kind of use it as like a P2020, where you shred the shield with something else and then hit them with it after the shield is gone. That's definitely the best way of using it, and it does the most amount of damage that way. Overall, it's a pretty slept on weapon, and I feel like a lot more people, you know, a lot of people don't really give it as much credit as it deserves. So next up, we are going to talk about the Peacekeeper. As you may have noticed already, I don't actually have a choke on my Peacekeeper, and there's a reason for that. I really do believe that the choke only makes your damage go down. I know it tightens the spread and gives you more range, but overall, I really think that it negatively impacts your accuracy on the gun. And you'll see a lot of pros not using it either, and there's a reason for that. I really do believe that the Peacekeeper will significantly hit harder if you do not have the precision choke on it. I don't even like running it because I really do feel like it messes up my aim. And in my opinion, the only good use for the precision choke is for hitting people at farther ranges. As you can see, it's very effective at that. But at the end of the day, it's a shotgun, so I don't know why you exactly need to be doing that. But in my opinion, when it tightens the spread, it will actually negatively impact your accuracy. And I think a majority of the time you're going to hit higher damage if you take the choke off completely. So one thing to note is that the actual spread of the gun does not change whether you aim in or not. So technically, you know, as you can see, they're the same. So technically, without the precision choke, you're going to be doing the same damage whether you hit them from here or you aim in. So that's one thing to keep in mind. However, I do feel as though when I aim in, I can consistently get higher damage. This is probably just you know, speculation, and it probably isn't true. But in my opinion, you know, if I don't aim, I tend to not hit as good of shots as if I do aim. You know, if I do aim, I'll hit like a 133 or like a 110. you know, and if I don't aim, I'll just end up getting like an 18, a 30, 15, you know, things like that. So I genuinely believe that if you aim in, you will probably have better success, because I know a lot of people don't know why they're getting 18s, why they're getting 20s, and honestly the answer is there is no answer. The gun is extremely inconsistent, and I think that if you can get a good shot on the enemy's torso aiming in, you'll chunk for majority of their health most of the time. So I think that that's the best method in terms of actually hitting higher numbers with the peacekeeper, is probably just try to aim at their chest, and that way when the spread, because it is a pretty big spread as you can see by here, if you were to hit them directly in the torso, the entire thing is going to hit them. If you're close up enough, you can do a headshot, which is absolutely devastating, but I wouldn't necessarily go for it. Just aim for shoulder area and chest area, and you'll hit with peacekeeper for a lot most of the time. And in terms of my favorite attachments on it, I really like the digital threat, and I advise against going with the HCOG Classic, just because I feel like it's too precise for a shotgun. Since it is a red dot, you know, I don't believe it actually helps, whereas with a digital threat, since it's a circle, as you can see, and you get the digital threat so you can see through smoke, with the circle it actually matches up very well with the actual spread of the weapon and the pellets, so that you'll get a more accurate understanding of where your shots are going to hit, because if you do it like that, you're not going to hit as many. As you can see, my crosshair, the dot itself is only off a little bit, but you're not going to hit as high of a number, because if you see that most of the circle is actually off of the target, so you could easily judge the spread of the shots by the circle. So that's why I just prefer this, and the fact that you can see in smoke makes it very good, and this is definitely my favorite setup to run on the peacekeeper. Peacekeeper is an awesome weapon, and overall it can be a little bit inconsistent at times, so don't expect too much out of it. So next up we have the EVA 8. The EVA 8 can be extremely devastating. I think it's a slept-on weapon. The double tap is a lot of damage, but just make sure if you're using the double tap, you know, you want to kind of play it behind cover. And what I mean by this is like pop out, hit the double tap, you know, kind of like you would with the peacekeeper, because you don't have that consistent damage that you would normally get with the full auto mode. As you can see, like that's a lot, so you can really just contest people, you know, and fight people that way. But I think with a double tap you kind of have to play a little bit behind cover, around corners, you know, around doors, things like that. But I think that the double tap can be extremely rewarding, especially if you hit your headshots. That's ridiculous, as you can see. It does a ton of damage. I mean, the double tap is nothing to mess around with, and if someone catches you with it, you know, it could be game over. So definitely don't sleep on the double tap. I know I was sleeping on it for a little bit, but you know, after you get hit with it a couple times and you start to realize how much damage it actually can do, it's pretty crazy. You can easily, you can pretty much consistently hit people for like 150 with the 2 shots. Just by like, even at this range, you know, that's 123. And that's pretty far with a shotgun, but like if you're face to face with somebody, chances are you're gonna hit them for a ton. So the EVA does a ton of damage, and even if you hit a headshot, it's going to do a lot more. I think it really is personal preference between whether you use a double tap or whether you use the full auto. The full auto is more for, you know, players that want to get up in someone's face and not really do a whole lot of corner peeking. Whereas if you're better with the peacekeeper, you know, using the burst might be a little bit more beneficial to you, because if you play around walls, you know, pop out, hit them with it a little bit, and pop back in, you're going to chunk people for a ton of health every single time. So I think the best way of using the EVA 8 is to, if you're running it on double tap, you know, play behind cover, play behind walls, around doors, around corners, things like that. And if you're using the full auto, you can get right up in their face and fight them like that. So next up we have the mastiff, and the mastiff is probably the best weapon in the game. I absolutely love the mastiff. It does probably too much damage. The fact that you can hit for like 200 plus on a headshot is gross. Yeah, 216. You know, it's just crazy. But one thing to note about the mastiff is that it's a significant difference if you aim in, as you can see. So if you want to aim in with the mastiff, I promise you, you're going to hit more. And the spread of the actual shells or the pellets, if you can see, very tight spread on that, and then these ones are more spaced out. But another thing to note is that they are entirely horizontal. Okay, so if you are not aiming for the chest or shoulders or head of the enemy, and you're like, you know, freaking out and aiming like a weirdo, you know, you're not going to see a lot of success with the mastiff. Whereas if you aim in towards their chest every single time, you're going to hit at least 100 damage, I promise you. The mastiff for me really never hits under 100. The gun is absolutely absurd, but the secret to using the mastiff, wow, that was quick. I'm gonna have to pick up 2 of these apparently. The secret to using the mastiff is you have to aim in. You absolutely have to aim in. As you can see, we'll be at this range, right? 72. Aim in, 108. And that's consistent across the board from all ranges. 72, 108. You know, even with a headshot, if I were to try to hit a headshot, 108 and 126. So as you can see, the aiming in aspect of using it is actually going to make you be able to chunk enemies. If you were to aim in from here, you're hitting him for 72 damage. I can't stress enough how much you really need to be aiming in with this gun. And when I say aiming in, I don't mean like, you know, pulling up on the enemy like this, because that's just ridiculous. But instead, just pull up on them and then aim in. You know, you don't have to like be aiming in the whole time, but just make it a habit to, before you shoot, you know, you just wanna aim in. I promise that you will see significant differences in your damage output with the mastiff. If you don't like the mastiff, it's probably because you were using it, you know, hip fire, and it really does not do as much damage. You know, as you can see, 50 50 50, like that's terrible. If I do the same thing aimed in, dude's dead in 2 shots, and it's not even close. 100. You will never hit anything under 100, honestly. Another thing to note about the mastiff is that, like, toe to toe, you're almost never going to lose. So don't be afraid to get a little aggressive with the mastiff, because you can run kids right over. You can also play mastiff. You know, if you get damaged in a fight, I can't even tell you guys how many times I've actually done this, where you know, if someone's trying to push you or whatever, and you're weak and you get behind a door and you're healing, you know, say you're hitting a battery behind a door and they're like trying to kick it down, man, if there's one gun you don't want to see that guy on the other end of that door have, it's the mastiff. So when he kicks that door down and you hit him for a consistent 144, or even one-shot him with a headshot, like, it's over. So, you know, you almost can't be pushed if they're kicking on your door, especially with the mastiff. Another good thing with the mastiff is you can do the peeking method like you would with the peacekeeper, you know, but it honestly isn't even necessary. You can go straight toe-to-toe with people with almost no question of even losing, because of the quick fire rate and insanely high damage. So you really don't have to do a whole lot with the mastiff other than just aim. I promise you, if you're aiming in with this gun, you're going to hit significantly higher rather than if you were to not aim. So that's pretty much all the tips I have for today. I think that concludes basically everything for shotguns. If I missed anything, just comment it below. I usually do miss things since it's so impossible to tell you everything about each weapon. There's just not enough time, and I wouldn't be able to remember it all. But I think this was a fairly good guide, and I think it should overall help most people if you're trying to get better with shotguns. I hope this guide will help a lot. So, like I said in the last video, if there's any other weapon type you want to see, just comment it below and I'll do that first. But I think up next, with no recommendations, I think up next we're going to do snipers. And then we'll probably do energy weapons after that. So I'm probably going to include the Kraber in the snipers, and I didn't do the devotion, but I'll probably include that in the energy weapons. So that's pretty much it for today's video. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.